Hi, everybody.
Morning.
Morning. We've still got a few people jumping in. I was just saying earlier that the version we're using today, I can't mute you all, but you'll probably suggest probably we just mute and we can use Messenger during the presentation, or if you need to, just unmute to ask a question. I think Jenny's going to leave some time at the end for Q&A. But thank you all so much for joining, and thank you, Jenny, so much for coming and presenting to us today. I'm pretty excited about the stuff I've seen a little bit, and keen to learn more. Just a note that I am recording this meeting. We had several people who were really keen to attend but couldn't make the time today, so we are recording this. We'll be sending out afterwards. So so thank you again to everyone for coming. I didn't get to say hi to you all because you're coming in thick and fast, but please, if you have any questions, use the messenger or save them to the end and we can answer them. And and afterwards, if you need anything, just contact myself or Jenny and we can answer any questions you have. So I'll hand over.
Joe?
Oh, I just muted myself accidentally. I don't know how. Sorry about that, guys. So I'm going to hand over to Jenny. Sorry about it.
Oh, that's the world we all live in
Well,
now, right?
indeed.
So, hi, and thanks for coming along. As Joe told you, I'm Jenny. I am the Market Development Manager at HP for our Workstation and our desktop and mobile Workstation range. And I'll start by saying that this year we have a lot of change coming in Workstation, and some of the first changes coming in this mobile Workstation portfolio. So I'm very excited about the change. It's sort of a bit sad we can't sort of meet, so much face to face at the moment, but we'll have to make do with this. So we've been in the workstation game for over 30 years, and obviously most of that originally in the desktop space. But we have a very clear purpose in the Z team. It's about providing amazing Z workstation experiences for everybody that uses them, ensuring the software complements and integrates with hardware, and obviously delivering in terms of performance and reliability across both our desktop and mobile platforms. So let's get started. Just going to cover off, this is sort of a quick agenda of the type of things I'm going to cover off today, and hopefully by the end of it you'll see it makes a bit of sense. So we're talking a lot these days about One Life, commercial One Life, need for mobility. Well, let's face it, sadly that we needed a whole coronavirus to show the need for more mobile solutions out there. And desire for style has never sort of really gone away. So when we talk about mobile computing, we can throw stats that you can see out there out to the amount of people moving to a more global workforce. And of course, that's been expedited more than expected. One Life is something, we talk to IT decision makers obviously all the time, and they often, and I've seen this countless times myself in my role, getting requests for gaming capable devices for commercial use. And part of One Life is having that one device for gaming, for work and for play. And this is really what we're talking about there. And what you'll see in this new G7 lineup is the ability to provide that, but retaining that commercial rigor that is so important to all of us when we're dealing with, business customers. And we find that stats have shown that 50% of commercial notebook users are using that device for gaming as well. And I guess during this lockdown, gaming's probably seen a massive increase. But at the same time as all that, everyone, who has a mobile device would like something that is as light and thin as possible, that has the best battery time as possible. And sometimes, particularly in the mobile workstation space, that can be very hard to achieve given the amount of grunt that everyone wants in it. So our key pillars when we're looking at design is performance, reliability, security, that you can see the design aspect itself, and obviously sustainability is a big part of anything HP does these days. And you'll see we're going to talk through a lot of these in more detail. But when we look at design, we don't look so much at what our competitors are doing. We're looking at materials that we're seeing maybe in construction along buildings and homes, housing, cars, furniture, things like that. So we take a lot of our inspiration from those type of things. Right, so this should be the left-hand side of the screen, should be quite familiar to a lot of you. This is where historically we've played in the workstation space. Product development is huge. Architectural, we call it AEC segment, architectural, engineering, construction, finance. Finance is a big user of mobile and desktop workstations. But on the right-hand side, we see new segments coming along, and this is really where businesses need to get on board and understand that a lot of new business and new customers will come from these new segments. So creative pros, and we're going to be talking quite a lot about that. Creative pros are those, and they might currently be Mac users as an example, but they are looking at products that can deliver high spec. So they might want really high-end graphics, but they need it in a very light form factor. VR, you might think that's gone quiet. It hasn't, and in fact we have quite a robust VR roadmap coming out later this year, which I'll talk about at a later time. Data science is an area that we're working in very strongly, and you'll hear more and more about organisations that hire people that previously may have been considered a business analyst or even a finance person are now working in that data science space, moving into artificial intelligence as a subset of that, where they're simulating or processing huge amounts of data, delving even deeper into the data than they have been before. And the technology that we can now provide allows this to happen at a relatively cost-effective price and very accessible to any business. And then finally, game development. I mean, I don't think anybody needs to know how big the gaming market is. It's bigger than the movie and TV and music industry combined. And I guess it's seen a lot of growth while people are locked down as well. But game developers don't typically develop games on consumer devices. They look to commercial devices to do that. So you're going to see, we're going to talk about in detail about our new thin and light designs. We're putting a lot more into these devices, so the thermal management becomes even more important. I'm going to be talking about some new intuitive experiences. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about the graphics and the CPUs, while still retaining our fantastic suite of security features and introducing more sustainability into the range. So here we get into a little bit of a picture of what's to come. So one of the, I guess, the aesthetic changes we've made is we've removed HP from the front panel of the new Z mobile workstations. This is the G7 range. We really want to build the Z brand as a standalone brand. So HP is still within the cover when you open it, but we've changed that here. I'm going to go into a lot of detail about the size changes, the premium materials. So we'll just move on from that. Oh, actually, we're going to go on to that right now. So we've chosen to use aluminium across the range. So this is, and we've also, this is what we call a unibody design. So it means the cover, the keyboard deck is one single piece. So it's been machined out of one single piece of aluminium. And that means the individual parts weren't built separately and then joined together with screws. So this is one piece. So the notebook is in a single body. And since we designed all of our products to meet the American Defence Force mil-spec standards, we don't want to cut any corners there. So we chose aluminium for a number of purposes. One, it's very strong and it's durable, but it also has a natural finish. It means the colour that you see there is a natural colour of aluminium, and it means it doesn't get scratched because we don't need to paint the surface, so it won't chip or scratch away, whereas other surfaces can do that. And because it's an anodized finish, it's actually very nice to touch and feel. So it gives us these crisp lines, clean edges, the precise detail, as well as being really sturdy, and will be, very rigorous. We've also changed things like the keyboard layout. And so if you've been on Simon Malloy, any of his webinars around the new G7 EliteBook range, you might be familiar with the keyboard changes there as well. So we've made some changes to our keyboard. For example, the new backlit keyboard button is more intuitive. We've swapped out the power mode to airplane mode. We've got a programmable F12 key, and the power button has been moved into the actual keyboard as well. There's some other keyboard changes that I'll go over a little bit later. Modern standby. Okay, modern standby has actually never been available on workstations before, and the whole point of modern standby is that you can walk away, whether it be for 8 hours or 10 minutes or whatever, and it doesn't go, there's no more sleep mode, there's no more on and off mode. You just come back, press a button, and it's up and going. Just, I guess, the same performance you would expect to receive from your cell phone, you'll be getting from your laptop as well. Performance, obviously performance is what drives a lot of our innovation, and we work very closely with our CPU partner, in this case Intel. And you'll see across the range, we still offer the same range of Core i, whether it's Core i3, 5 and 7 in the entry level space, right up to Core i9, and also the Xeon architecture. So we've moved with the G7 range to the 10th gen processors. We've also made a lot of changes in the graphics space, and this is where it gets quite exciting. And some of the first products that will come to market will incorporate these new graphics changes. We've introduced, we will be introducing for the first time, GeForce graphics in a commercial notebook. And this will be available in a brand new product called ZBook Create, and I'll be covering that off in a bit more detail. In our entry-level 14-inch and 15-inch, currently called the ZBook 14U and 15U, but has a whole new name called ZBook Firefly. So if you're familiar with the naming convention with Dragonfly, it's a follow-on from that, and all of our ZBooks actually move to a naming convention as opposed to just numbers. I don't know anyone's opinion on this, but the belief is it's easier to identify with a product if it's given a name. So Firefly 14 and Firefly 15 will also move from AMD graphics to NVIDIA. That's it, Quadro graphics. I could throw in my joke here that I do. Do you want my joke? Oh, I'm echoing.
Someone else has got their mute off. Yeah.
Mute. Yeah. Yeah, so I googled this, and apparently dragonflies have a lifespan of a month, whereas fireflies have a 3-month lifespan. So read what you want to that, but I think a firefly will last a lot longer than a dragonfly, but that's just my sad joke. And then finally, at the high end, where we have our workhorse ZBook 15 and ZBook 17, which they're currently called, will adopt a new name, ZBook Fury, and we are introducing AMD graphics into that space. I'll talk about that a bit later. We still, mil-spec testing is something that I don't know if people sort of take very seriously here in New Zealand. It is a US Defence Force measure, and it has a very broad criteria. And with any workstation, our criteria for testing for mil-spec is more detailed and comprehensive than any other product in our portfolio. So we test lots of different things. We test the product itself, we test the packaging itself, we run it for, as you can see here, 120,000 hours of testing, and that could mean pulling out the power plug and reinserting the power plug over and over and over again. So thousands of times to test that particular connection. It could be opening and closing the lid. It could be drop testing, packaging, drop testing within the packaging, all that type of thing. So we're testing the materials that we use to build the device. We're testing the materials we package in the device. We're testing for different temperature variations, for dustier environments, all sorts of things within that. And so, as I said, the criteria for testing either a desktop or mobile workstation is a lot more comprehensive and a lot more rigorous than any other device. And so this is all designed, obviously, to give you guys confidence and your customers confidence that the device you buy it can be as reliable as possible. Security is still, I mean, it's a big talk, you know, we're very much into security at HP. So the security suite, the Shore suite of software and hardware that you're familiar with across our Elite products has always been available in our Z products, and that doesn't change. I've got a lot to talk about, so I'm not going to go into the security a lot, except to say that there is a new piece of security that we've launched that will just for mobile workstations, and it's called HP Shore Platform. And so this is broken down into a number of different categories. This is available on our Firefly and our Fury range. And basically what part of it is a tamper-proof device. So this is where we're finding that attacks are becoming more and more, well, the attackers are becoming more highly skilled all the time. And so intrusion without leaving a trace is becoming more and more, occurring more and more. So basically the tamper-proof device will provide alerts when, for example, covers are open. So when you're opening the actual notebook and you're not expecting to be, protection of the TPM chip inside. So there's different layers of security there that's added to some of these mobile workstations. Sustainability. This becomes really important when you're talking, particularly if you're doing RFPs as well. This is a key element now. We talk about things like a peak gold. A peak gold is actually an eco label that's voluntary. You don't have to do it. It's not mandated by any law, but we choose to do that. So we design everything to meet the requirements of ePeak Gold. That's across both our desktop and notebook range. And so, you know, gold being the highest standard, that takes into account lots of different factors, reduction and elimination of environmentally sensitive materials, material selection, material end of life, energy conservation, a whole lot of different factors go into that. So that's something that's really important to us. Bulk packaging has always been available, but we've never really pushed it. But bulk packaging is something where packaging of 2 or more units in a single packaging solution. So it's something that is configurable for CTOs, obviously not with the existing BTO SKUs, but if you're actually configuring your own, you can actually select a bulk packaging option there. Ocean-bound plastic, we're incorporating more and more ocean-bound plastics where we can into the manufacturing of our notebooks. So in this case, in speakers and keyboards and things like that, we're using more and more plastic. And then Energy Star, so we're always focusing on reducing the amount of energy required to both manufacture as well as when we use these devices. And this is for 2 years in a row, HP's actually been named as the Energy Star Partner of the Year because of our efforts there. And then in terms of the plastic-free packaging, so molded pulp cushions, we're moving to that because they're 100% recyclable. Okay, so just a few key things here. So now we get into the real stuff here. So this is what our range will look like, and I'll actually keep putting the roadmap right at the end. But so this is our overall range. So ZBook Firefly 14 and 15, as I said, replaces the 14U and 15U. This was announced actually this week. And our process is we announce and then we have a first sort of ship date. So this will start, I'm actually building SKUs for this now, and this will be orderable in June. But the existing ZBook 14 and 15 will be orderable right through to almost to the end of the year, November. ZBook X2, we've actually discontinued this in New Zealand, so we don't worry about this. The ZBook Power G7 is actually the last notebook that will refresh, and that's aimed around October, and this replaces the current ZBook 15V. The ZBook Studio, for those familiar with that product, we have an X360 and a standard clamshell in the G5. We never moved to a G6 with Studio. So with that, ZBook Studio G7, that launches in July and starts shipping in August. This is only now available in a clamshell. ZBook Create G7 is also a clamshell, and this launches at the same time. And then in September of this year, the ZBook 15 and 17 replacements are the ZBook Fury 15 and 17. So a lot to come. So let's get into. So we're going to talk about the ZBook Create and Studio product to begin with. So this is, you know, we are very much investing in the whole creator segment this year. We think it's certainly a growth segment, and it's very, very broad as well. It can incorporate anything from engineers through to graphic designers. And it's all about really giving these users the right device. So for the first time ever, we're giving them basically a single device for work and play. And we're really wanting to get people to move away from looking at consumer devices into enterprise devices. I mean, you're probably aware of all the differences between them, but you look at, I'm not dispelling anything negative about our Envy or Omen Gaming, but they are consumer devices with consumer chipsets, so that means they have limited connectivity and features and memory, sometimes memory capability. They don't come with professional operating systems. They come with a return to base 1-year warranty. So and they certainly don't have a security suite, and they certainly don't have any ISV certification. And they certainly don't go through the same or any mil-spec testing. So there's a lot of good reasons to look at different products to actually accomplish what they need. So here we have two products that look identical. This is ZBook Studio and ZBook Create. One of the key differences is the graphics. So Quadro, obviously, we remain with the NVIDIA range of Quadro enterprise graphics versus Create, which will offer GeForce traditionally gaming graphics, but obviously can be used for a lot more. And I'll go through this in a little bit more detail. With the graphics, this is a claim that's been verified. It'll be more powerful than the MacBook Pro 16-inch. It'll be considerably faster, as well as seeing considerable improvement generation to generation, and I'm going to go into detail over that as well. So we're claiming a lot more power, a lot more graphics. We are doing this with a slight decrease in weight, and of course we're Kiwis here, so 4 pounds is pretty meaningless, but that's it's 1.8 kilos. It also is trimming the actual height of it as well. So what we are doing here, these are the key elements. So with the NVIDIA GeForce, we'll be offering the 2070 and the RTX 2070 and the 2080 graphics on it. With the Quadro, we'll be offering from the T1000 right up to the RTX 5000. So currently, the only notebook that we have in our range that will support RTX 5000 is our ZBook 17. So that's a 16 gig graphics card. So that's an incredibly powerful card. As I said earlier, we'll be offering, certainly on Studio and Create, we'll be offering Core i7, Core i9, and Xeon capability, along with ECC memory, support for up to 32 gig of memory on these devices. At the same time, we've improved the battery life because that's obviously a very key element for most users. We're quoting 17.5 hours with UMA. Obviously, the battery time will reduce depending on the configuration, but we've improved that as well. And I'll go through some of these in a little bit more detail. So I hope you can't hear my dog crying in the background. So when it comes to choosing GeForce or Quadro, I mean, obviously it's the customer's decision of which they prefer to use, but there's some key reasons why you should choose one over the other. ISV certification is something that we consider very important. So with Quadro, these are ISV certified for over 100 different applications. So for example, SolidWorks or Autodesk products are certified to run with Quadro graphics, and that means for the professional, for your customer, we're guaranteeing the performance, the stability and the reliability that they demand. So that can be a very key element. So some of these, obviously a lot of the applications will work on GeForce, but you're not going to get the driver support and that ISV certification out of the box with a GeForce card. But also with GeForce, we're going the extra mile with that. We're offering automatic game optimization, as well as driver and game updates. So that will be rolled out just as we normally roll out driver updates across our Quadro products as well. So we are recommending, a lot of products are designed, like Photoshop, for example, Creative Suite will address multi-core. So we think that they will benefit from ZBook Create. But this is really gets important. So how do we fit these high-end graphics cards and high-end CPUs in a much smaller chassis? So we do it with these 6 new innovations that we've brought into our ZBook range. Not all of these are available on all the models. The custom vapor chamber is on the ZBook Create, ZBook Studio, ZBook Fury products. And this is a redesigned cooling system. Basically, it takes the air away from the CPU and the GPU in 2 different paths. So one takes cool air, or one takes the hot air and cools it, and that just goes round in a cycle. And it provides 3 times higher power density than what we've had before. So you imagine that these graphics cards will generate and need a lot more power to run. So this vapor chamber technology ensures that it will support that. These cards are not throttled. At the moment, we have products out there on the market. Our competitors have products in the consumer space, with RTX 2080 cards and a 15-inch form factor, but they're actually, a lot of them are actually throttled back. They cannot run their full speed and capability because the cooling cannot support it. And the last thing we want is a device shutting down because it's overheating. We've also introduced custom reinforced fans. So these are carbon fiber fans, and it's the only time we use carbon fiber in our devices because carbon fiber is not a recyclable material, but it is a very strong material, and it enables us to get fans, very thin fans, which means we can put more fan blades in the fan, and they'll be more creating more active airflow. 3-sided venting. So again, this is critical to keeping the device cool. So maximize cool ambient air entering the laptop and then exiting via the other side of the chassis. This allows us to generate 25 to 30% cooler laptop temperatures. We also have introduced a Z power slider, and this is across, I think, most of the range. And this gives you, the user, control over the performance and also the acoustics you want, depending on your workflow. So, for example, if you're actually just sitting there using, catching up on emails and using Outlook, you can actually reduce the power usage, extend the battery time, make sure the device is running as quietly as possible by just modifying that. Sorry. We've also introduced Z predictive fan algorithms, and these are embedded in the BIOS, and they will intelligently manage your fan's behavior, enabling a smooth ramp up and ramp down based on, again, on the type of work that you're running on it. And then finally, the Z awareness, graphics awareness algorithm. This intelligently manages power sharing between the processor and the graphics, again, depending on the work you're doing. So I think we've covered off, actually, I'll skip this because we're covering that off in a bit more detail. So this just gives you a generation to generation view. So remember, there wasn't a G6 Studio, so G5 to G7. So I'd never come across these terms used to describe a notebook before, but apparently we humanize everything. So it has a forehead, side and a chin, and you can see where we've reduced a lot of the size there, but not reducing the actual screen real estate. One of the other things we've done is we've worked on our Dreamcolor technology. So if you're not familiar with Dreamcolor is an HP design technology, and it's all about customers or users that really require color accuracy. And so it's been around for quite a long time. It's available on some of our external Z displays, but it's always been a configurable option working with our mobile workstations. And what Dreamcolor does, one, it supports over 1 billion different colors. It supports 100% DCI-P3 coverage as well as HDR capability. but we've redesigned Dreamcolor so it doesn't suck the life out of your battery, because it used to do that quite a lot. We also have Pantone validation pending as well. But Dreamcolor has always been about working with your own palette as well. So you're designing the colors that you need for the work that you're doing. So we have 4 display options coming out with the ZBook Studio and Create. At launch, SureView won't be there. So SureView is our integrated privacy feature. But this one provides a reflective quality rather than a white or blackout. So this runs at 1000 nits. So I'm not sure when this is launching, but it won't be at the August launch or August ship date. We have the Full HD low power. So that's a 400 nit panel, and that will give the best battery life, obviously, of all the different panels. As well as that, we offer 2 4K displays, one the OLED touch with the Gorilla Glass, as you can read, and introducing HDR 500 into that. And then the second one is the Dreamcolor one I just mentioned. So yeah. We've also done some work on the keyboards. So obviously, a lot of the market that we're looking at trying to transition from is Mac, and so this is redesigning the keyboard layout there to make it more intuitive for Mac users to move on to the ZBook as well. And then all important ports. So we don't have Ethernet ports on the G5 anyway, and we continue not to have those, but still quite a good range of ports, given that we're getting slimmer and slimmer with the device. We've also done a lot of work, and this goes to that One Life mentioned at the beginning of my presentation. We've done a lot of work on the audio. Because we all know we're all sitting here now using our laptop at home, and the audio quality is critical. So we've improved the bass, we've improved the overall graphics. Audio, 2 front-facing mics, 1 world-facing mic, 4 discrete amplifiers, 2 tweeters and 2 woofers in terms of speakers. So a lot of very rich sound with Studio and Create. Just gives you an idea of the G5 when you're looking down, and the G7, so you can see 22% smaller footprint with the new device there. Right, so I don't know if you have any questions on ZBook Create and Studio. So I'll just reiterate that they will be shipping, orderable probably late July, shipping from August onwards. And then, as I mentioned just 2 days ago, we announced ZBook Firefly 14 and 15. These are actually the first, although they weren't announced first, they will be the first to ship first. So as with the personas for Studio and Create were more the graphic designers, the game developers, a whole range of users wanting either high-end CPU or graphics. The ZBook Firefly is looking. Oh, sorry, my phone's ringing. Sorry about this. Get rid of that phone call. It has a very broad range of users. For example, I use a 14U not because I need graphics, but because I usually have running 15 different Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoint. So I consider myself a high compute user. So I don't really need graphics for my function, but I need to have the maximum memory available, and I need to have a high-end CPU. We find a lot of finance guys use it again for that same reason. They're using a lot of Excel and they want very fast performance. In fact, all the product managers at HP are on ZBooks. But for entry-level graphics, it's a fantastic product, and the graphics is just improved by moving to NVIDIA. So we're claiming it's the smallest and lightest. I can't remember how light it is actually. So it's probably about 1.2 kilos. One of the changes we've made is, as I mentioned, we've replaced, historically, we've always offered AMD graphics, the WX3200 on the current ZBook 14U and 15U. But with the Firefly, we've decided to move to Quadro, and we're offering the P520. Some of our competitors are also offering this card at the entry level, but they're only offering the 2 gig variant. We're offering the 4 gig variant there. So it means automatically it's a very good device for entry-level CAD use, graphics use, and you're getting that much lighter form factor. Again, using aluminium across the design, always built with these sustainable materials, offering up to 18 hours of battery life. We've also introduced a quieter keyboard because it's quite annoying when you're sitting next to somebody with a very noisy keyboard. Where our EliteBook range have moved to offering 5G across some models, we are remaining on 4G across the range. Also, just one thing, in the EliteBook 840 G7, which is a new range, they no longer offer any discrete graphics. So if you have customers who require discrete graphics in the 14-inch, they would need to now look at the ZBook Firefly. But in saying that, from a price point of view, we can be very competitive with any EliteBook. Same MILSTEC testing, of course, 10th gen CPUs. Of course, these do not offer Xeon, so we're offering all Core i9. So these are Core i3, i5, and i7. We offer obviously a privacy camera which physically covers, so you don't have to think about it. So if you're not using your webcam like you are now, it'll just automatically cover it. While facing mic, so a third mic there can be used to pick up other people's voices, or cancel that. Well, if we're ever in a meeting room again, cancel any of that ambient noise that creates, as well as I mentioned, a new keyboard layout that provides consistency. So the keyboard layout I showed you for ZBook Create and Studio will also apply for ZBook Firefly. And of course, we've also improved the audio on this range as well. And here you go, a little bit more detail, close up there. So obviously the top is the ZBook current 14U keyboard, and then you can see the changes we've, in fact, it describes it quite well here. We've moved the speakers to the side rather than to the top because we believe it gives a better audio experience. The power button has moved from the side to become a key on the actual keypad. We've replaced the number lock with an insert key. We've changed the wireless function to be an airplane mode function. And we've replaced the calendar key with the command center, which is a programmable function key. And we've removed the collaboration keys because we found most customers weren't actually using those. So again, as I mentioned, we've introduced some of the gaming class thermals onto the ZBook Firefly range. This includes the power slider, which is the one where you can actually adjust your power usage and control your acoustics, and then the 2 algorithms, one that are built into the BIOS. This just gives you an indication of how we've reduced the size of ZBook Firefly. And then the same with the 15-inch model. So the 15-inch still has the numeric keypad, which again makes it a great device for, particularly for finance use. And then it has got lighter as well. I didn't translate this into kilos, so I can't remember how many that is, but I'm guessing about 1.2, and then slightly smaller, lighter on the 15-inch as well. And that's just your comparison. And then the internal comparison as well. So getting rid of these, these wide, particularly the forehead, reducing that, but still retaining the same camera functionality. What you'll find for those who are familiar with Piper, that terrible tool, which I do apologise for configuring your own devices, you'll find that the base units for all of these products have a lot more built into them. So for example, and you'll be familiar if you're configuring EliteBooks, particularly in the 1000 series, but for example, the base unit for Create and Studio will include the CPU, the memory, a webcam, and another feature that completely eludes me at this moment. So you need to be very careful about how you configure these devices, because that means there's reduced upgrade capability aftermarket. So for example, if you do have a rare customer who does not want a webcam, you're actually opting out, and there's only sort of one webcam option, and that's an IR webcam, things like that. So just be aware of those sort of subtle changes. And again for the 15-inch, and then in terms of the ports, so one thing you need to note here, big change here with the Firefly 14 and 15. So I'm a user, as I said, of the 14U, and I'm old-fashioned, so I'm actually using a side dock. So that side dock capability is removed with Firefly. So that means it now has to move to only the Thunderbolt docking or USB docking option. And I've got a slide on that coming up. So a slot for a SIM, you can see USB-C Thunderbolt, the HDMI standard across the range. There's a smart card reader option there for those who need it, as well as obviously used an existing USB 3 port. Same on the 15-inch. Probably need to, this just gives you a comparison of memory, and so 64 gig memory on the current one. 64 gig is only available on UMA going forward, 32 gig when you have the discrete graphics option. As you can see there, it's soldered on, so you cannot change that. And that's the 15. So I'll take this just quickly, just covering off some of the, mention the docking. So these are the docking options, and I guess you're all very familiar with that. So again, no more side dock for the entry-level models there. So just stress too, you know, I have a dock of my own, the part number 2UK38AA. Just be very careful with that dock. That dock is really designed for ZBooks only, because it has the cable, the connector is not like the 2UK37AA, the 3TR87AA, where you can pull them apart. That is a fixed, has a USB-C and a power connector all within that one end. So just be very careful that you use the right dock for the right notebook there. And then finally, this is just a very quick look at Fury. So this is our ZBook 15 and 17 replacement. I do not have images of Fury yet, so you don't sort of focus too much on the pictures that I show you. But these ZBook 15 and 17 historically have always been our desktop replacement type devices, if you like, where you have to have a mobile solution because of your business requirements. And of course, 17's come very close at replacing some desktops with support right up to relatively high-end or 8-core Xeon processors and the RTX 5000 graphics card, 128 gig of memory, larger storage options. So it's been a very powerful device. It still will be, but some of those features are now, as I mentioned earlier, available in the Studio and Create products. But we are aiming to get these smaller and thinner. So this is what the actual device looks like today. So this is the G6. So don't worry too much about that. But we still intend for it to be the most expandable notebook in our range, with toolless re-entry, toolless access, as you can see, to multiple components. Performance-wise, it will have the highest performance capability of any of our devices. It will have a greater range of high-end CPUs in terms of Xeon, and it will have a greater range of display options as well. So at the moment, the ZBook 15 supports up to the RTX 3000. We expect that to support up to the RTX 4000 in the new range. Both devices will get smaller and lighter. We do have, along with ZBook Power, which is a 15V replacement, we do have a lot of 15-inch models in our range. So future-wise, we probably will end up, the generation, the G7 of the ZBook 15 may end up being the last generation of it, since we seem to be able to do so much more in our other 15-inch models. One of the additions I mentioned earlier is we've introduced AMD graphics for the first time into this family. So there's two classes of cards. One is a gaming class and one is a commercial enterprise class card, as you can see here. So the purpose of doing that, well, obviously everything we do is generally driven by customer demands. So we'll be the first to market offering these gaming class cards. The Navi architecture that AMD offer, this is high value for performance. So when you compare that to an comparable NVIDIA card, you'll find it's considerably cheaper as well. It's also a 7 nanometer CPU or GPU on that card. It has higher decode and encode rates to some of its competitors, and is generally designed to be better price performance. So I don't know the pricing yet. It's too far away for this product because it doesn't launch until September, but it's always good to have some other options in there as well. And it also goes to the fact that we do have customers buying, particularly the ZBook 17 for gaming purposes. And so these, again, are not the real images, but this, again, gives you an idea of the size. Actually, the ZBook 15 will support the RTX 4000 and 5000. Also increase the hinge as well, so the device can go further back, and will reduce both in weight and size. And then the 17 reduces by ½ pound. So that's quite a significant decrease in size. And then we won't bother with that. And then the final slide I have is just a recap on the roadmap. So as I mentioned, ZBook Studio and Create were the first to be announced, but they will be shipping 16th of August. The first to actual ship will be the ZBook Firefly 14 and 15. So they're announced now, and the first ship date is the 3rd of July. So they'll be orderable from next month. The next ones after that will be ZBook Fury up in September, and then the final one late September, early October will be ZBook Power, the 15V replacement. You'll also note in the thin and light section, ZBook Firefly G8 is already there. There's a reason for that. Intel have already told us they expect at that entry level we use Comet Lake U chipsets and processors. They already have identified they expect shortages of those. So we are expediting the G8 release to because they've told us Tiger Lake will be a lot more readily available. So September of this year, we look to be releasing the UMA version of G8, Firefly 14 G8, and then later in December, we'll be moving to the discrete. So some customers, depending on what their design, may wish to wait. There won't be any, this is not a significant change in terms of any other components. This is simply just a chipset and CPU change there. Okay, and I think that's my last slide. Yes, it is. So I don't know if there's any questions from anybody.
Jenny, you did mention, you've talked about the processes during, but a question did come through while you were presenting just around AMD CPUs. Is there any?
No.
You talked about?
No. For us to, I don't know what the rationale is, but for us to start offering AMD CPUs in both desktop and mobile workstations would require a lot of engineering. And typically when we look to bring models to market, it's an 18-month path to that point of release. So I've brought it up in the past, and I've always had a no. I know that with Intel's appalling record in the last year or two with supply, that it's becoming, it's producing a better opportunity for AMD. But no, not at this point. We don't have any roadmap with AMD on it for CPU.
Oh, thank you. We got any other questions for Jenny around?
If not, I'll just mention that further releases this year, as well as obviously the notebook lineup, we're actually also refreshing our entry-level desktop lineup. So that's our Z1 Tower and our Z2 Mini small form factor and Tower are all due to refresh to the G5. That will be happening in September. So just look out for more information on that. As well as that, we will be refreshing our VR headset market. We've partnered with Valve. So if you know anything about the VR HMD market, Valve currently ship around 30,000 headsets a month. And we've partnered with Valve and will continue to do so. And so we're using their lens technology in our new headset, which is a complete redesign. So we have that coming out around August, September, and then but later this year another VR headset that's designed for it's quite a different use case. We call it a bioanalytic headset, and basically it has a whole lot of intelligence built into the headset that can track everything from pupillometry, eye movement, heart rate for the user, and then that information then goes into an AI engine. So you think about first responders and training and heavy machinery and how people react to what they're seeing in a VR experience, and then that allows the companies to either look at the profile for how they're hiring or how they're training and that type of thing. So that also coming out this year. And then the last thing later this year, we'll be refreshing our Z display range of monitors. So big year for everything Z.
Yeah, massive year. Any questions come out? If you have any questions that you think of afterwards, obviously you can flick an email through to me, so jdavies@exceed.co.nz. Obviously Jenny as well can take any questions if you have anything.
I do have a question regarding the docking station for the SEDbook. Would that still be the 230 watt Thunderbolt, so it can charge the SEDbooks, or would the USB-C universal be compatible?
Yeah, so with the ZBook Firefly product, you can use a USB because that doesn't generate that's 65 watts. But anything above that, so ZBook Create, Studio, Fury 15 and 17 will require the 230 watt Thunderbolt dock, just because of the power.
Okay. The other question is a follow-up. Since the Thunderbolt will require a updated driver, out of the BTO, do they still need to update the driver, or is it a plug and play?
It should be plug and play to begin with. Obviously, throughout the life, there's driver updates. And so you will need to update the driver on the dock and the notebook from time to time, but it should exit the factory plug and play.
Okay, that's it for me.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
There's a couple of thank you messages there, Jenny, from people listening.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. It was good.
Yeah, it's really good. Thank you. It was really, really informative. It was great. So as I said, if you've got any other questions, you can contact myself or Jenny and we can point you in the right direction.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Thank you for your time, and we will catch up soon.
Okay.
Okay, cheers.
Not in person though. No.
No, virtual catch up.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. Bye.
Bye.